near and dear to David's heart is Advocate.
David Hyde Pierce's role on Frasier in the 90s took him directly to the pinnacle of Hollywood comedy. He was the gold standard for comedic timing, and rightly so. However, since the end of Frasier, he had suddenly vanished from the spotlight, seemingly taking a sabbatical from the top-end movies in Hollywood. Why did he suddenly pull a Houdini? Could he have been trying to conceal something sinister from the rest of the world? Join us as we uncover the reason behind David Hyde Pierce's decision to leave the spotlight and fade into the background. David Hyde Pierce, the origin story. The 90s generated the birth of some of the greatest Hollywood movies and actors in the world. In a time when the world had seemingly started to find its feet and the comedy genre had taken a whole new turn, David Hyde Pierce became one of the popular faces of slapstick comedy, with his comedic timing on full display in the 1993 comedic series, Frasier. Oh, there was barely a magazine that wasn't covering some sort of story about him. He was super popular, and you just couldn't miss him. His role as a psychiatrist in the series set him up perfectly, almost as if he were born for that show, and his voice, features, and delivery of every line were just dramatic excellence. He was so good that he left an indelible mark on Hollywood comedy. Although he had the world eating out of the palm of his hand with his performance on Frasier, almost giving the illusion that he must have had it easy, that wasn't the case at all. David Hyde Pierce is a product of pain and hard work. Born in Saratoga Springs, New York, his mother, Laura Marie Pierce, was an insurance agent, and his father, George Pierce, his inspiration, was an aspiring actor who just never really found a way to make a name for himself in Hollywood like David Hyde Pierce. While David Hyde Pierce's acting and interpretation of his role in Frasier have often been attributed to his devotion and possibly a passion he had had since he was a child, his childhood dreams were different. As a child, he loved music so much that he learned to play the organ, and he was plying his trade and loving his music playing for the local Bethesda Episcopal Church. His first stint at acting came as a child when he attended Cabellon, an all-boys summer camp where he acted in their camp productions of Gilbert and Sullivan and directed their production of HMS Pinafore, or Lass, that loved a sailor, a comic opera in 2 acts, serenaded by music composed by Arthur Sullivan. After high school, he had a clear path in his mind. He wanted to do more music, so at Yale University, he majored in music with an emphasis on piano performance. But for some reason, he suddenly pivoted to a double major in English literature and theater studies. But just how did this man, who pivoted from music to the theater, suddenly rise to prominence? The harsh beginning of a stellar career. Following his decision to pivot towards acting, he struggled after graduating from Yale University. Hence, he moved to New York in search of thespian glory. While he pursued his dreams, he needed a way to keep his world together. So he found jobs, some really odd ones at that.
I couldn't have a better job. I couldn't be working with better people. I couldn't have a better part. So if they stereotype me, I'll suffer.
First, he was a tie salesman at Bloomingdale's, an American store chain popular for selling luxury wear. But that just wasn't enough. He needed more money to fuel the journey towards his acting career. So he took up the job of a security guard while he was studying at Michael Howard Studios, an acting studio for the performing arts. As expected, it was not the easiest thing to do. He was juggling his career with a seriously demanding blue-collar job and hoping for that one big break that would take him into the spotlight and working hard to keep himself there. Soon, he got a role as Laertes in an off-Broadway production of Hamlet in the 1980s. It was his first real gig, so he gave it a serious go and hoped for a better outcome. Having smashed it as Laertes, the doors of Broadway suddenly opened to him, and he grabbed that opportunity with both hands, barging right through with a debut appearance in Christopher Durang's Beyond Therapy in 1982. Following his success on Broadway, television came calling, and he was ready to take on the world and really show just how good he is. His big break on television came in the early 90s, when Norman Lear came up with a political comedy niche that was bound to set the world alight. Norman was certain of his cast list immediately after the plan for the movie moved forward. Hence, It was almost not a surprise that he went directly to David Hyde Pierce to get him cast as a suicidal congressman. Oh, he was amazing. He had his line delivery on lock, and his comedic timing was just too good to ignore. It was almost like nothing television had ever seen before. But here comes the kicker. The show was obviously fantastic, especially owing to its ability to water down something as serious as politics and make some serious satire from it.
David, perhaps we should call the suicide prevention hotline.
No, Fred's on vacation.
Hence, the popular positive reviews that kept coming week in, week out. However, the show was suddenly canceled. As expected, it caught David Hyde Pierce by surprise, and he saw the hard work he put into his first big appearance on television almost going down the drain, and he wasn't sure if he could save it. While the ship had sailed on the powers that be, his fascinating display was still there as a reference point for whoever might be hiring. However, his next big break, which finally came on Frasier, had nothing to do with his acting prowess at first. It was more like nature handing him a gift, a face that resembled a younger Kelsey Grammer, who was playing the titular role of Frasier Crane in the show. How important was this resemblance for him to retake a place in the limelight? Breakthrough with Frasier. The show was already on the road for Frasier, and everyone loved the joy that came with the show at the time. However, it was not long before the producers did something completely unexpected, something that caught Hollywood off guard. They found a guy who looked exactly like Kelsey Grammer and thought it would be a good idea to give him a brother in the series.
Frasier, you all right?
I was fine before you screamed. What the hell is wrong with you?
And just like that, the creative team of the show, including David Lee, David Angel, and Peter Casey, decided to bring David Hyde Pierce into the fold as Niles Crane, younger brother to the eponymous character Frasier Crane. Although his natural facial composition got him through the door, staying there required some evidence of good acting. Remember the short series that set him up on a trajectory in the first place? It was particularly important that his performance as the suicidal congressman was perfect.
Wow.
And the producers and creative team of Frasier were superbly impressed. Now, he was fully in, and the time had finally come to put in the work and stay right on top of the show. He was certain that he was the one person who could come into an established franchise and set it alight. Immediately, he stepped foot in it. His impact was felt immediately on the show, as he brought a completely new dimension. He was the perfect foil for the character of Kelsey Grammer, who played Frasier Crane. While he delivered the planned script well enough, he showed just how capable he could be.
Niles, just remember to keep breathing. And trust me, this is not the end.
When he needed to step up in light of some unplanned circumstances in 1996, when Kelsey Grammer crashed his Dodge Viper not far from his driveway in Agoura Hills, California. Although he wasn't severely injured, the resulting DUI arrest was a major reason that spurred him into checking in at the Betty Ford Clinic. Frasier was on hiatus for the following 3 weeks due to the Major League Baseball playoffs, and Episode 4, titled Head Games, was quickly rewritten to feature Pierce's character, Niles, hosting his brother's radio program, while Frasier was away at a convention. Obviously, the plan was just baked out of a vacuum and needed to be executed perfectly. Hence, Pierce knew that he had to be at the top of his game, and he gave it a scintillating performance. That performance was the perfect justification of the creative team's decision to write him a role that did not even exist in the first place. Owing to his success on the show, he received several critical acclaims. For some context, he won the Emmy Award 4 times, taking home the prize for the supporting actor in a comedy series category between 1995 and 2004. His formidable run and consistency had his name on everyone's lips, and he was just that guy. Hence, it makes it even harder to accept why a man who worked so hard to be at the top of his game would choose to suddenly stay away from the spotlight where he is loved. Was there a side of him we never saw? David Hyde Pierce's private battles. While David Hyde Pierce dazzled on the brightest stages in the world, earning top accolades and seriously killing his role as Niles on Frasier, he was quite different from everything everyone thought about a comedian off the screen. He was the perfect comic magician who inspired laughter just by looking at you, or with a simple sigh, depending on the situation. He was just so good at sending any room into a roar of laughter, but for some reason, every time he showed up at red carpets or award nights, he was by himself, alone, with tired eyes, and a smile that made it all look okay. No one could tell what was wrong, or if anything was wrong. He's a comedian after all. Somehow, the world simply expected his life to be all sunshine and rainbows. However, there was more. David Hyde Pierce understood that he was in a place where optics is everything: how you are seen, who you are seen with, and where you are seen. He understood the importance of narratives generated from optics. While he was nigh perfect in his appearance at major functions and awards, there was just something missing. While he might not have thought about it as a problem, the media was right there to remind him just how vicious they can be when any of the numerous constellations of stars in Hollywood are caught in their crosshairs. Suddenly, his ability to disappear into the crowd
David is also nominated for Vanya, Sonia, Mash, and Spike.
when he was at the red carpet or any public function at all was no longer active. He was now under a microscope because he was often seen to be by himself. Although if he were an action star and was nowhere near the comedy niche, he might have gotten some reprieve for always showing up alone. But he is one of the funniest men in the world who has been gracing television since the early 90s and has become a bit of a cult hero in the United States. Hence, it was almost too easy to make him a target. While there have been speculations about his reasons for seemingly always being in open events by himself, with almost no concrete rumors of a romantic relationship, everything has been completely wide of the mark. Years passed, but the speculations remained unchanged. David Hyde Pierce was definitely hiding something, holding on to a secret that he probably did not find easy to tell the world at the time. In popular parlance, the world was not woke enough to handle such a delicate truth about the battles fought in silence. What was this carefully hidden secret that kept him away from the spotlight for so long? David Hyde reveals his damning secret. While there has been a debate about when the world was at its best and there was some hope for humanity, with answers swinging back and forth between the 90s and the 2020s, a certain section of the human race would definitely lean towards the new age, where the world is woke. The 1950s till the early 2000s had a bit of everything, especially since the Second World War had just ended and the world wanted to try new things, with the Carpe Diem philosophy suddenly becoming a mantra. Vivid romance suddenly became an important part of theater.
Gays have Nigerian girls in stays, you may even have some shiksas makings.
But there were just about enough leftists of the old guard who just did not let the rot spread. Hence, it was quite difficult for anyone who had a different orientation about natural topics like interracial marriages or diverse sexual orientations to express themselves at the fear of being blacklisted or just being the weirdo amongst the completely sane lot. It was a real struggle. David Hyde Pierce, who had always wanted to be at the pinnacle of television and finally got his way,
Offered a lot of roles that are very similar, and I spend 8 months of the year playing this part. I don't want to do it.
happens to fall into the category of those who had a different orientation on how love works. His attraction to other men was a secret he had kept for a long time. He was getting all these awards, but the fame that came with it was the price he had to pay. Fame in Hollywood is definitely the poison chalice. While it comes with serious recognition, wealth, endorsements, and business deals, it also means that the world is now fully invested in your business. What better way to get lips moving than finding out the romantic partners of top celebrities, especially a 4-time Emmy Award winner? David Hyde Pierce knew more than anyone the price of making a bold move and telling the world how he felt. Ergo, after Frasier ended on May 13, 2004, he faded out of the spotlight carefully, shunning television for Broadway. He plotted his move away from television and went back to Broadway in 2005, joining big names like Tim Curry and other amazing actors and producers in creating the stage production of Spamalot, a stage musical with a score by John Duprez and Eric Idle. that is based on the 1975 film Monty Python and the Holy Grail. The musical offers a highly irreverent parody of Arthurian legend, with the title being a portmanteau of Spam and Camelot. After he had successfully vanished from television, he figured out that the world had started to change and become more receptive to new ideas. So he came out openly as gay in 2007, referencing Brian Hargrove, an actor, writer, producer, as his partner. As expected, the news came with all types of emotions raging on social media, with questions flying about, especially on how long he had been hiding his relationship and whether it happened by nature or nurture. However, the real question is there a way back for David Hyde Pierce into mainstream television again, and is he willing to take it regardless of the circumstances? David Hyde Pierce's spotlight dilemma. Following his decision to come out openly as gay, he stuck to his guns at Broadway and continued until 2016. For some reason, retirement seemed like an option many thought he might be considering, especially since he rejected the chance to be on the reboot of Frasier. Whatever were his reasons, the classic show has remained positively spoken about and remains a relic from the Hollywood comedy gold of the 90s.
Wasting at the seas, and that's how I acquired.
That has survived the influx of more daring television comedy from modern actors like Kevin Hart, Pete Davidson, Donald Glover, Awkwafina, Tiffany Haddish, and other immensely talented comic actors from the modern age. Fast forward to 2023, and the producers of the show decided to bring it back. A revival was on the books, and it sent a shockwave around the United States. Frasier was finally coming back, and pop culture was about to be shaken up again. The plan was simple: bring back the old stars, including Kelsey Grammer and David Hyde Pierce, the Crane brothers, who were lighting up the 90s and keeping everyone on their toes, waiting for the new episodes to run. While Kelsey Grammer had agreed to a return to the silver screen, David Hyde Pierce turned down the chance to once again appear on television in 2023 as one of the faces of the project for a second time. Although some believe that he avoided it because he did not want the fame that would come with it, as it could possibly derail his perfectly curated private life with his partner, and he just couldn't take a risk on it. However, the logic seemed flawed, because he had already returned to television in 2017 with an appearance on a limited docudrama series about LGBT rights, When We Rise, as Dr. Jones. He also appeared as himself, with Julie Andrews, in Julie's Green Room on Netflix. Pierce co-starred with Bette Midler in the Broadway revival of Hello, Dolly. The musical opened on April 20th, 2017, at the Shubert Theater, which became a serious hit and led him to a Tony Award nomination.
Top Broadway musical fundraiser for Easter Bonnet 2017, raising...
While his return has been graced with some really wonderful moments, it has rarely raised the same noise as starring in Frasier. Ergo, his reasons for keeping himself away from the return of the project. Although the movie was finally remade, it lasted only 2 seasons on Paramount+. Although he avoided being a part of the revived series, he could not avoid the hate that came with the series being dropped because of a low rating, with many blaming his absence from the show as a criterion for flopping. However, he did not respond to the criticisms and continues to make his cameo appearances on shows and awareness programs for the LGBTQ community, keeping all the noise behind him and fading into the background as usual. Do you think that he made the right decision to come out openly as gay, despite knowing the backlash that probably comes with it? Is there a chance that he finally decides to take up a huge role on television again? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.